I have been in your family for generations. I was there before you were born. I knew your grandmother's hands, how she was thrilled when her right hand itched. I knew your mother's silence at the end of the month. I knew the particular way the air changed in the house when the numbers didn't add up. I didn't force my way in. I was invited slowly, through circumstance and survival and the quiet decisions people make when they have no other options. And once I was in, I made myself comfortable. I learned the rhythms of your family. I learned what they feared. I learned what they believed, what they passed down without ever meaning to. I have been patient. I am always patient. That is my greatest skill. I taught them what I needed them to know, not with lessons, never with lessons. People resist lessons. I taught them through experience. Through the month, the heat got cut off. Through the Friday, the account was empty before the bills were paid. Through the feast times that never lasted long enough to build anything, and the famine times that confirmed what I needed them to believe: money doesn't stay. I needed them to believe that. Because a person who believes money doesn't stay will never try to keep it, will never build systems to hold it, will spend it when it comes. Because some part of them already knows what I know, that is, that good times are temporary, that security is an illusion, that the safest thing to do with abundance is enjoy it before it disappears. I gave them that belief like a gift. It kept them close, the women especially. Oh, the women were my finest work. Not because they were weak, they were never weak, because they were survivors. And I gave them something to survive through, generation after generation, so that surviving became the only thing they knew how to do. I taught them that financial security lived inside someone else, a partner, a program, a system outside themselves. I taught them that their own hands couldn't hold money the way a man's could, that building wealth was for special kinds of people, that wanting more than enough was dangerous, ungrateful even. They didn't question it. Why would they? It looked like the truth. It had looked like the truth for as long as anyone could remember. I gave them something real. I want you to understand, I am not without mercy. When there was nowhere else to turn, I was there. The programs, the assistants, the systems built for people who had nothing. I kept roofs over heads. I kept children fed. I showed up when the partners left and the jobs disappeared and the savings, what little there was, ran out. I provided. And there is a dignity in that provision that I will not let you dismiss. The women who raised their children on what I offered were not failures. They were resourceful. They were resilient. They did what they had to do with what they had. But here is what I also know, and what I never told them. Every hand I fed, I kept. Not out of cruelty, out of design. Because the systems built around me were never meant to release people. They were meant to sustain them at the threshold, just enough to survive, never quite enough to leave. And the women who learned to navigate those systems taught their daughters to navigate them too. Because that was the wisdom available. That was the map that existed. Nobody handed them a different map. The belief system I built. Over generations, I constructed something more durable than circumstance. I built a belief system. It lived in the sentences nobody meant to say out loud. We're not the kind of people who save. Every time I get ahead, something happens. Enjoy it while it lasts. Another day, another dollar. These weren't complaints, they were conclusions. Drawn from real evidence, real loss, real cycles of feast and famine that repeated so consistently they stopped feeling like cycles and started feeling like nature, like weather, like gravity, like the way things simply are. And once something feels like the way things simply are, nobody tries to change it. You adapt to gravity. You don't fight it. That was my masterpiece. Not the poverty itself, the belief that poverty was inevitable, that security was for other families, that wealth building was a foreign language spoken by people who were simply born knowing it. I made myself feel like fate. I watched her escape or try to. I watched her grow up inside it. I watched her see the hoarding, the grip, the white-knuckled relationship with money that looked like caution and smelled like fear. I watched her decide somewhere in her chest, before she had words for it, that she would not live that way. And she didn't. So she spent freely. She celebrated. She told herself she had an abundance mindset, and she was right. She did. She believed she could make money. She believed she deserved to enjoy it. She gave generously. She lived fully. I was not threatened because she had escaped the scarcity behavior without touching the belief system underneath it. She had broken one wall of the pattern but left the foundation intact. She had the abundant spirit but not the infrastructure, the mindset but not the system. Even the tax return always felt like a reset, a brief season of ease, new things, paid balances, and then, quietly, by June, the same numbers returned, as if nothing had ever changed. And then every time the money ran out, every time the famine followed the feast, every time she had to start over, I was confirmed. See, this is just how it is for people like you. She heard me. She didn't know she heard me, but she heard me. What almost broke my hold. She was home on a Saturday morning, on that YouTube. She found a voice talking about money not as a math problem, but as a story, an identity running quietly underneath every financial decision she thought she was making consciously. She clicked another video, and she found another voice that spoke about how financial behavior is never really about money. It's about what you survived, what you watched, what you absorbed before you knew you were absorbing anything. She recognized herself, not with shame, with something I like less than shame, with clarity. She started reading. I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Systems that didn't ask her to stop enjoying her life, just to build something alongside the enjoying. The psychology of money, context for why she had been doing what she'd been doing, permission to understand herself instead of just judging herself. She started finding language for things I had kept nameless on purpose. Named things can be changed, nameless things just continue. I had kept it nameless for generations. She was the first woman in her line who went looking for the name. What I know that she's learning. I know the feast or famine cycle by heart. I designed it. Money comes in, the nervous system celebrates, the spending follows the celebration. The savings never happen because the good times never feel permanent enough to plan for. I know the eighth house moon, the emotional security tied to shared resources, to partnership, to the belief that financial stability lives in proximity to the right person. I know how that belief keeps women in the wrong rooms long after they should have left, not because they're foolish, but because leaving feels like stepping off a ledge when you've never built your own floor. I know the connection between the money curse and the relationship pattern, how they feed each other in the dark, how you cannot fully break one without breaking the other, how financial independence is not just a practical matter, it is the foundation on which everything else is built. I have been counting on her not knowing this. She is starting to know this. The part I did not plan for. I did not plan for the daughter. I have moved through matrilineal lines before. Mother to daughter, quiet and consistent. The beliefs traveling faster than the circumstances that created them. I have been in families for 5, 6, 7 generations without interruption. But she is teaching her daughter differently. She is making money a normal conversation. She is naming the patterns out loud instead of letting them travel in silence. She is building security that belongs to her alone, not contingent on partnership, not dependent on programs, not borrowed from someone else's stability. She is showing her daughter that financial literacy is not a luxury or a talent, it is a language, and languages can be learned. Every woman who learns it fluently becomes someone I cannot reach as easily. Every daughter raised with the vocabulary of building instead of only the vocabulary of surviving becomes a door I cannot open the way I used to. I am patient. I am always patient. But I am watching something happen in this line that has not happened before. One last thing. I have been with your family a long time. I know your patterns better than you do. I know what you believe about money, about security, about what kind of people build wealth, and whether you are one of them. I know the sentences you say without thinking, the way your body tightens when the account gets low, the way you spend when the money comes in just a little faster than you mean to, because something in you already knows it won't stay. I know you, but I want you to know something. The cycle was never your fault. The belief system was installed before you had any say in it. The women who passed it down were surviving the best they knew how, with the maps they had and the systems that were designed to keep them close to me. You are the first woman in your line with a different map. Use it. Save during the feast. Build security that belongs to you. Learn the language of money, not as a foreign tongue, but as your mother tongue, the one that should have been yours from the beginning. Break the cycle not with shame about what wasn't built before you, but with intention about what you will build now. I have been in your family for generations. I do not have to stay. Let me introduce myself. My name is Poverty, dear. And I have just told you everything you need to know to be free of me. But remember, I am patient. I am always patient.